Brr. It's winter here in Canberra, and it is freezing. And along with winter, no matter where you are, sometimes we get the winter bleh. And if that's you, if you're suffering from the winter blehs, fear not, my mateys. We have a solution. Stay tuned, and let's go.
Welcome to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, your source of strategies and insights to make you a better leader. Influence, improve, inspire.
So it seems a lot of my clients are suffering from the winter blues. They've kind of got this blah, slumpy thing happening. And I think it's completely normal in the middle of winter. So for all my listeners who are in the northern hemisphere, enjoy the summer where you are cavorting and having a brilliant time in the summer sun. I see posts on Facebook from my friends sending their kids off to camp and enjoying all that. Well, good for you. Down here in the southern hemisphere, it's absolutely bloody cold. And it was -7 this morning, getting up, getting on my bike and going to the gym. And yeah, and that'll show you you're alive, that's for sure. So if you get the blues in the winter, don't worry. It's seasonal. And when I was talking to a client who was struggling with this, he seemed to imply that there was something wrong with him, that he was not performing as he should as a leader. And I asked him to tell me a little bit more about it. I said, what's going on? He says, well, I just wake up at 3 a.m, all these worries circulating around my head, can't get back to sleep. And I said, what do you think's causing that? And he goes, just thinking about future performance. I'm like, wow. I think he's forgotten about the huge crest of success that he's just been riding for the first half of the year. Like, he's had tremendous amount of results in his business. They've hit all sorts of milestones and personal bests in the organization. And now this sort of lack of traction and lack of results is causing him the blues, the bummers. Well, it also has something to do with probably the seasonal affective disorder, or SAD as it's known. And you might be familiar with this. It's the phenomenon that happens particularly in Northern Hemisphere countries, though I suspect we have it here in Australia too. As the days shorten, we have less daylight and people get bummed out. And some of the things that happen with SAD is our metabolism slows, we crave those comfort foods, our enthusiasm drops, we may find ourselves oversleeping, we may find our sex drive plunging. It's interesting, when I was reading a bit of research around this, the researchers said, well, that's probably to do with biological evolutionary principles. I'm like, And they said, well, possibly your sex drive drops in the winter because if you get pregnant in the winter, you're likely to have a child in the autumn, which is not so good when there is less food around. So people get more randy in the summer and conceive babies in the summer to produce babies in the spring where there's lots more food around. So it could be just evolution talking. So when your sex drive dips in the winter, it's because they don't want you to be sprouting bubs at the wrong time of the year. Whatever, we just know that during the winter, we just want to crawl into a hole sometimes, and it's hard to get bouncing out of bed when it's nippy and frosty and freezing outside. Apparently 4 to 6% of people get winter depression. Like, that's really the serious situation where feels like there's no end in sight. And about 10 to 20% of people get SAD. Also, interesting statistic in the research is that it's 4 times more common in women than it is in men. There you go. Don't know what that's about. But there are things that we can do about it. First of all, I think one way I like to think about this winter stuff is that it's time for hibernation. It's time for slowing down, a bit of contemplative, a bit of retreating from the world, and so on. And I liken it to bears. And apparently, bears all around the world gestate during hibernation, which means that they go into hibernation when it's cold outside, and as they're sleeping, they're growing babies and they're giving birth in the middle of the winter. Probably not the middle of the winter, towards the end of the winter. So if you think about it metaphorically, hibernation allows gestation. So even if we feel like we haven't got all the right ideas or all the juiciness of creating new stuff and producing results, great. It means you're in hibernation and you're gestating. Things are cooking up there, even though on the outside it looks like they're slowing down. And I think a break from the pace and pressure allows new ideas and opportunities to emerge. So I like to think about this hibernation phase as a way of just allowing things to grow at their own natural rhythm. So while that's happening, there's some other things that we could actually do to manage our mood and our energy. And as you know, my key principles in learning how to be a better leader focus around be, think, and do, no matter what level of leadership you are focusing on, whether it's leading yourself, team, organization, industry, community, or leading for the world. Be, think, do has particular applications across each of those levels. So in this application, what do you do in the be, think, do of hibernation? Okay, well, let's start with the being piece. And this is all about restoration. It's time to take restorative practices. So things like taking a bath, sitting by the fire if you can get by a fire, getting cozy up, like wrap yourself in a blankets, bed down with a book, and just chill. This rest piece, this cocooning piece, is a way of nurturing yourself and making sure that you get a chance to restore your energy, your spirit, etc. The other practice I like to do in terms of body management is put your legs up the wall. It's a yoga practice, and it's a restorative practice. So after a workout or whatever, or even at night before you get into bed, you sit with your bum against the wall and put your legs up the wall for a few minutes. And you just allow the blood to drain from your legs, and it boosts your circulation, and it leaves you feeling refreshed. By the way, did you know that the Norwegians have a saying that there's no bad weather, just bad clothing? And I love this. As a Canadian living in Australia, it's hilarious to hear me complain about the weather, because this ain't nothing. I tell you, growing up in minus 30 and minus 35, plus the wind chill, where literally the weather warnings were in the morning. They give you the temperature like that and then say, and risk of skin freezing occurs in 30 seconds. So you know that you had to wear a scarf that day. You couldn't reveal any of your skin, just to let your eyes poke out. That's where I grew up. And to be honest, we often got out in the winter. So as kids growing up, it could be minus 20, dumping snow. We'd go out and play in that stuff. And we just suit up. And you wore your moon boots, you wore your big, thick snow pants, and your big, thick jumpers, and your big, thick parkers, and gloves, and mitts, and scarves. And off you toddled out to have fun in the snow. And certainly Norwegians and Canadians and all northern countries that have a huge winter look forward to the winter for skiing, for tobogganing, for skating. Outdoor activities in the winter are pretty fun, and you just got to dress for it. So the other thing the Norwegians have is they have this expression called koselig. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so apologies if I bastardize that word. And it's the word koselig means coziness. And this idea of winter, it's all the joys of Christmas without any of the drama. So it's lighting candles, it's snuggling up in a blanket in front of the fire, sipping cocoa. That sense of coziness comes in the winter. So all these things of being cozy and doing restorative practice are essential in the winter slump. So you can just nurture yourself in that way. So that's a B component of be, think, do during hibernation. The think part is reflection. I think with shorter days and longer time in the evening and not wanting to get out and go much, this is a perfect time for some reflection. Bianca, my business manager and good friend, took me out to the Arboretum here in Canberra. And it's quite a beautiful place. It seemed like everybody in Canberra was out there this weekend. It was just crawling with people. And yet there were little spaces that you could disappear into. And they have this series of gardens, and one of them had a labyrinth. And the labyrinth feels like a maze, but there's only one way in and one way out. So you can't get lost in it. Surprisingly, though, I did. That's another story. So with the labyrinth, it's a contemplative practice originating perhaps in the Celtic days. I know the Celts were really big into labyrinths. And you just go into the labyrinth, and it's a process of mindful walking. And that's basically it. You allow your thoughts to percolate. Apparently, it's about balancing your left and right brain hemispheres, because you do all these twists and turns backwards and forwards. And by the end of it, you come out and you're like, oh, I feel a bit more centered. So in doing things, contemplative practice like doing a labyrinth walk, it allows you to just let your thoughts settle and allow more inspiration. Right next to the labyrinth walk, we had a garden called the Celebration Garden. And I think this is a really good one to have in your period of reflection over the winter. And what are you celebrating? There's a couple of questions I think that are useful to consider in your celebration reflective practice. One is, how far have you come? And I think we get so used to projecting how far we got to go and being bummed out by that, especially in the winter when we feel like we don't have much energy and it feels like a long, long way to go. Looking back and thinking, how far have you come, is awesome. It's like climbing a mountain. When you're climbing a very big mountain, you keep looking for the top. It can be disheartening if you're really tired. But if you pause and a break and look at how far you've come up, it's surprising. You actually climb faster than you think you do. Another reflective practice during the reflection piece of the winter is to redefine success. I do a lot of work with my clients around what is success, and when we have a useful definition of success that serves us well, it acts like a good rudder for our boat, if you like. So definitions of success need to include internal as well as external markers. External markers are things that you want to achieve, a certain set of results. Maybe it's weight loss results or health results or financial results. Those are external markers. Internal markers are defining success by how happy you feel, by the choices you make each day, by your attitude towards the journey. And I think having both those angles of success create a journey that's enjoyable, so that you don't just plug away hoping to get to the end point. You actually enjoy the journey. So it's a cliche, it's the journey, not the destination. I prefer to think it's the journey and the destination. So redefining success is a critical aspect of that. If you haven't got a journal practice, now is the time to take one up. And there's a really good book called Journalution by Sandy Gray, and it has some wonderful journaling tips or exercises in there. That, or you can pick up, Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, and that's also pretty good. And the third piece, the last piece for reflection, I guess it's kind of a habit to implement, is reframing everything that happens to you with one phrase as a starting point. And I got this out of Jocko Willink's book, but I think it's fantastic. So anything that happens to you, you answer first, good. And what that does is that it's a circuit breaker, because no matter what happens, we can find an opportunity in it. So did you lose a client? Good. Opportunity for you to get new clients, new and better clients. Did you catch a cold? Good. It's time for you to read a book and chill out. You got a cash flow crisis? Good. Time to get creative and resourceful. So by pivoting around the word good, no matter what happens, it's an opportunity to be proactive and to be on the front foot instead of defaulting to, that's terrible, and feeling like a victim and stuck and reinforcing the winter blues. All right, so the last piece of the Be, Think, Do in this hibernation period is the invigoration, which seems contradictory. If you're going to be hibernating, why are you invigorating? Well, unlike bears, we actually move around. And I find invigoration is a way to keep alive, if you like. And the best way to enjoy invigoration is to get outside. So take a leaf out of our Canadian Northern Hemisphere peeps and get outside. And like I did this morning, hopped on my bike. Yes, it was bloody cold. You just rug up for it and out you go, because that fresh air will waken you up. That's for sure. There's nothing like going for a ride or a run or a walk first thing in the morning to really enjoy being alive. It just kind of recenters you. So that's the first thing with invigoration. And you come back in, it's like, woohoo, you feel all tingly. The other aspect of invigoration that you can apply is undertaking a physical challenge. Doesn't have to be a huge one. It could be a little one. So one that I started on July 1st, my birthday, is to do push-ups every day. I started with 10, and I've been adding one every day. And that, or doing like a pyramid type of exercises. So I'm up to 31 push-ups in a row. Though yesterday with the series of exercises I did about 100 push-ups, not all in a row. That's sort of building capacity. So this is my little challenge for July, is to do push-ups every day. I want to see how long I can keep going. Maybe I'll do it through August as well. So having a little physical challenge like that keeps you connected to your body, because if you're just hibernating and hiding under the doona or under a blanket and eating comfort food, you can get pretty disconnected from your body. And all of a sudden you come through winter and go, oh, that's a few extra little spare tires there I didn't want. And well, you don't have to go there. You can keep yourself connected to your body by doing a physical challenge. And the last piece for invigoration is to sweat. Like the Finnish people, or actually a lot of the Norwegian people and the Scandinavian, that's what I want to say, the Scandinavian people, saunas. Saunas are great. They kind of like, if you go out and get invigorated in the cold and then you build up a hot sweat in a sauna, that makes you feel awesome. Followed up by a cold shower or plunge. Woohoo, you are a tingle mania. If you can't get into a sauna, do something with a team or go for a hard run. Like just build up that internal engine, if you like, that internal fire. And that will make you feel super, super duper alive. So if you notice, none of these things are about creating. You got restoration, invigoration, reflection. It's about priming and it's about nurturing. That's what we need to do during the winter blues. And you come through that when things start to emerge from the ground in the spring and things start to bloom open. Hee-haw, we'll be ready. So I'd love to hear what your winter blue strategies are. And you can jot a note at zoerouth.com/podcast/winterblues. That would be awesome.